Hey everyone, and welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here.
So many of us know that feeling, right? That knot in your stomach, the racing thoughts, just the sheer discomfort of anxiety. It's incredibly common.
Absolutely. So many people experience it.
But what if the ways we often try to, manage it are actually, well, making it stick around?
That's a really interesting question.
Yeah, and we're diving into a source today. It's an essay called Essay 79 that has a pretty thought-provoking take on exactly that. It suggests a key reason anxiety persists might be because we're constantly trying to control the world around us.
The external stuff.
Exactly, to avoid dealing with the feelings inside us. So our mission today is to really unpack that main idea. We'll look at where the essay suggests this pattern might start, maybe in childhood, and explore its perspective on how we might genuinely break free from that cycle.
Sounds like a great plan.
Okay, let's unpack this.
What's fascinating here, I think, is the essay's core argument. It might feel a bit backwards at first.
Spouse.
Well, it suggests most people aren't consciously thinking, okay, I need to control my feelings right now. The focus isn't really internal like that, not directly.
Right.
Instead, it's more about making everything external, everything outside of themselves, feel right or safe, controlled.
Ah, okay.
And the essay argues that's the sort of subtle, maybe unconscious way people try to manage their internal emotional world.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. And the source gives some really specific examples that I think will resonate with people. It points to things like that relentless drive to make more money, but framing it as needing success.
That's a classic one.
Or like meticulously restricting food choices, focusing on body size,
Right.
or that kind of anxious need to micromanage how others see you.
Oh, yeah,
Changing your behavior just to be seen as likable.
totally. It even mentions curating that perfect social media feed,
Yeah.
or endlessly debating if some decision is absolutely right for your life path.
Or obsessing over how your home looks. On the surface, yeah, they just look like ambitions or preferences.
They really do. But the essay's crucial point, the real insight here, is that these things aren't just about achieving those external goals for their own sake.
Okay.
According to this source, these physical controls, or even mental controls like planning everything, they're primarily used to control our emotions. The text is pretty blunt about it.
This says what?
It basically says, we don't control the physical things because we can't control our emotions. We control the physical things in order to control our emotions.
Wow, okay. That flips it.
Yeah. And then it gives examples of how this kind of faulty logic gets applied to big things like relationships and self-worth.
Ah, yes, connecting that external status to like internal safety. The essay brings up assumptions like, if I just find my soulmate, then I can't get heartbroken.
Exactly. As if another person could somehow guarantee you'll never feel pain. It's outsourcing that emotional regulation.
Or the belief that if I'm attractive enough, then I'll automatically be respected. Using the external, the attractiveness.
As a shield against that feared internal state, like feeling disrespected or maybe inadequate.
Yeah. And the idea that if other people think nice things about me, then I'll always feel good about myself. Just completely handing over your self-esteem to what other people think.
Right. The core mechanism, the source is suggesting, is using these external conditions to try and head off unwanted internal feelings before they even start.
And this whole avoidance thing, it seems like it just loops back, doesn't it? Creating the very thing we're trying so hard to escape.
It really does seem that way.
The essay makes a really powerful point here. For people struggling with, heightened or maybe irrational seeming emotions, the root of most anxiety and panic is a fear of experiencing anxiety and panic. It's not just being anxious, it's the terror of the feeling itself.
That's such a critical distinction the source makes. It's not necessarily that we're in conscious denial, like actively pushing a feeling away in the moment it happens. Instead, the essay describes it as denying them by using other things to try to avoid them. It's like a proactive defense system, building these elaborate external fortresses, hoping to keep those scary internal feelings locked out.
Which, the essay argues, stops us from living fully. It paints a picture of what happens with all this constant control and risk reduction, this obsession with avoiding anything bad.
Yeah, what does it say?
It states, when we are obsessed with trying to control outcomes and reduce risks and ensure that we do not experience anything bad, we are not living whole lives. We are fragmented selves, expressing only the parts we are momentarily comfortable with.
Wow. Fragmented self.
Yeah. If you're always managing the outside to prevent feeling something inside, you can't really show up as your whole authentic self, can you?
Makes sense. So this pattern, controlling the external instead of processing the internal, this emotional disassociation, like disconnecting from your own feelings,
Yeah.
where does the essay say it comes from?
It makes the case that this often starts way back in childhood, described as the product of being punished for bad feelings.
That feels, well, it resonates, doesn't it? Kids aren't born knowing how to handle huge emotions like anger or sadness or fear.
No way. The essay argues they just don't know how to self-regulate yet. They need emotional intelligence taught to them, just like we teach manners or sharing.
Right, like any other skill.
But the source points out this crucial teaching often just doesn't happen or happens inconsistently.
Instead, the essay talks about this cycle where kids learn pretty quickly that acting out, expressing those big feelings, will get them punished. And that triggers a pattern of suppression. They start to absorb the idea, maybe implicitly, that their parents' love or approval is conditional. It depends on them being good.
So they shut down parts of themselves.
Exactly. Shut down the parts deemed unacceptable or messy or inconvenient.
And the essay really focuses on the motivation behind that. It suggests what they are responding to is a lack of feeling loved. What they are wired to chase is their parents' love.
That deep fundamental need.
Yeah. And if that need isn't met unconditionally, just for being them, they learn to, manipulate their behavior, their presentation, trying to earn that love or approval.
And the essay argues that process itself, that performance, is what causes this critical disassociation from their own genuine emotional experience.
That disconnect.
Which the source then connects directly to the adult state. This is how it proposes they can evolve into panicked, judgmental, anxious adults who cannot function in relationships.
Wow, that's a strong statement.
It is, because they've learned this core coping strategy.
Yeah.
Control everything around you, because, as the essay puts it, if they don't trigger a feeling, they don't have to deal with it. The pattern just gets ingrained over time.
Okay, so if that's the potential root, this deep childhood pattern, how does Essay 79 suggest we can possibly break such a pervasive cycle? Does it offer a way out?
It does. It offers a clear path forward, though.
Yeah.
It's definitely challenging.
What is it?
It says, the way we raise adults who don't struggle with anxiety is by being adults who accept anxiety.
So the responsibility lands back on us, the adults now.
Pretty much, yeah. The essay suggests the responsibility lies squarely with the current generation of adults.
How does it frame that role?
It talks about the adult needing to become that voice of reason that maybe many of us didn't have consistently when we were kids dealing with big feelings.
Okay.
Because, as the source points out, the voices kids hear from us, especially when they're vulnerable, those are the voices that become their own internal dialogue later on.
So it's about modeling, actively modeling the emotional acceptance we want them to develop.
Precisely. And that modeling piece is absolutely central to the essay's whole argument. It really stresses kids do not do what we tell them. They do what we do.
Right. Actions speak louder than words.
Exactly. So if our goal is for the next generation to be able to cope healthily with their feelings, the essay is really insistent. We must learn to cope with our own.
You can't just lecture about emotional regulation.
No, you have to demonstrate it through your own actions, your own emotional presence, how you handle your anxiety or stress.
That's a big ask.
It is. But the source offers a kind of hopeful note here, too.
Yeah.
It acknowledges that if we didn't get that foundational emotional intelligence growing up, we're not just doomed to repeat the pattern.
Okay.
It highlights the opportunity that exists now. It says something like, without the emotional intelligence to cope with anxiety, we have the opportunity to consciously grow to understand it.
So it suggests this deep dive into our own emotional world is possible, even necessary.
Yes, if we connect this to the bigger picture.
It implies that really gaining this self-knowledge, understanding our own emotions, is like the prerequisite. You have to do it yourself before you can pass it on.
Exactly right. The essay argues that our ability to give our children and, future generations that vital gift of emotional self-knowledge is entirely dependent on whether we cultivate it within ourselves first.
Wow. Okay. This deep dive into Essay 79, it really gives us a different lens, doesn't it?
It really does.
It presents this powerful idea that so much of our effort trying to control external life, our career, how we look, our relationships, all of it might actually be this sophisticated system for avoiding uncomfortable internal feelings.
A coping mechanism, essentially.
Yeah. And it traces this tendency, this emotional disassociation back to potentially painful childhood stuff,
Yeah.
where maybe expressing certain feelings just wasn't safe or accepted.
Leading us to seek that external validation instead of finding internal acceptance.
Right. And crucially, it puts the onus back on us, the adults now, arguing that the path to raising more emotionally resilient kids actually starts with us learning to accept and cope with our own feelings, modeling the very thing we hope they'll learn.
And it really offers a compelling perspective, I think, on why managing anxiety can feel so circular sometimes.
Yeah.
Because we might be pouring all our energy outward onto controlling the external.
When the real challenge is internal, it's about feeling and acceptance.
Exactly. It redirects our attention inward, towards understanding and maybe even making peace with the emotions themselves, rather than just fighting them or avoiding them.
Which leads us perfectly to the final thought the source leaves us with, something for you, the listener, to consider.
Okay.
The essay strongly suggests that giving our kids this gift, this self-knowledge about their emotions, it's only possible if we first give that gift to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
This raises an important question. Is the widespread struggle with anxiety that we see today,
Mm-hmm.
while obviously really challenging, could it also be a unique opportunity, maybe even a privilege in a strange way?
A privilege. How so?
A privilege for this generation to finally learn this essential emotional intelligence for ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
precisely so we can authentically model it and pass it on to the next generation.
That's something worth sitting with, definitely. Is the struggle itself the catalyst for learning what needs to be passed on?
Indeed. Thanks everyone for joining us for this deep dive.